Okay, well, happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Study Hall with the Napa Valley Wine Academy. So great to see all of you joining us from all different parts of the world. I think we have people here from Brazil, Nicaragua, Poland, Little Rock, Arkansas, Clearwater. So hello to all of you. So glad you could join us today. Today's Study Hall, our presenter is actually going to be Karen Wetzel, and let me bring her on screen. Hey, Karen.
Hi, Christian. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to have you. Great to have you with us, and really super excited about the topic today. Can you give us a little teaser of what you're going to be presenting today?
Well, it's summertime. I'm big into my high acid patio wines, my white wines in the summer. And I thought, well, who makes a more wider variety of Italians of sparkling of high acid white wines than Italy? And so I love Italian wines and gave me a good excuse to do a little extra research. And so we're gonna talk about Pinot Grigio only because we kind of have to, but we're gonna talk about going way beyond Pinot Grigio and give you some ideas for that refreshing patio wine that everyone's craving right now.
Great. All right. So I'm gonna switch on over to your presentation and let you kick it off, and then we'll come back to both of us here at the end. So here you are, and your presentation is loaded, and you're ready to roll.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. So, welcome everybody. So, today, as I said, we're going to talk about Italy. We're going to talk about white wines of Italy. So, this is great if you just happen to like refreshing white wines. Also, a really good opportunity for those of you who are studying for your credentials, particularly WSET, but this is really appropriate for anyone who just loves good white wine. So, that's what we're going to do today. So this is our map of Italy. I'm going to keep referring back to this from time to time, and hopefully it'll give you an idea of exactly where we are geographically speaking, because that's important. Just to give you an overview, so today we're going to start up here in the Veneto, in this region up here in the northeast corner of Italy, and then we're going to come down here to the Marche area, which is on the Adriatic Sea. And then we're going to come back up here to the Piedmont region, to Piemonte, and talk about some wines. And so everything in between. So here we go. Before we get into the wines themselves, it's, I think, interesting to find out, where does Italy fit in the world of wine today? And so where Italy fits is in world wine production. We are the number one producer in Italy, not we, although I am Italian. Italy is the number one producer, second to France, and then Spain, and then the US and the rest of the world, as you can see in this chart. So that makes them pretty darn significant. The other thing is, so under consumption, which I always find a very interesting topic. So under wine consumption, Italy is number three. But that is in volume, not per capita. In per capita, usually France, Italy, all the European countries way outdo the United States per capita. We still have a ways to go. But in volume, now think about it. If it's just volume, the size of Italy is, I don't know, probably not much bigger than the size of California. So just put some perspective on that. Wine labels are, I think, one of the biggest challenges that most consumers face when it comes to looking at Italian wines. I think more people would venture out and try things beyond Chianti and Pinot Grigio if they knew a little bit about how to know what the heck they're drinking. And so here we have four wine labels. And the thing to remember about Italian wine labels is, here in America, we pretty much name all of our wines for the dominating grape, unless we call it a red blend or a white blend. But for the most part, our wines are named for the grape variety. And in Europe, in France, for instance, many times, in most cases, the wines are named for their region. But Italy, they like to do things their way. So they have lots of options. So we can have a wine that's named for its grape variety. In this case, you see Pinot Grigio on the left here, right here. So that's named for the grape. The grape variety is Pinot Grigio. And then you can also have a wine that's named for its region. And in this case, the region is Soave. And we don't tell you what the grape is because we don't have to. And the one thing I wanted to, well, let me finish this and I'll come back to something. And then you could also have a wine that's named for the grape and the region. So in this case, the grape is Moscato, the D stands for from, and the town is Asti. So this label literally means Moscato from Asti. So we have grape plus region. And then we have a label here, this Conte de Vipera. This is what I call a creative label. This could be anything from the name of your dog to the name of your castle, your mother's maiden name. It could be any name. And usually these are what we call IGT wines. These are wines with less regulation, so they can use these sort of made up names. But one thing, if you don't know all of the grape varieties, and I'm going to guess if you've had Soave before, you probably thought that was the name of a grape. And here's how you know, in some cases, not always, if it's a grape or not, or a region, is this DOC, this Denominación de Origen Controlada, could also have the word garantita, is often a region, not a grape. But as you see here in Pinot Grigio, we just changed the rules that Pinot Grigio is now coming from a DOC region. But anyway, look for those DOCs and you can kind of guess you're probably looking at a grape, not so much, I'm sorry, you're looking at a region, not a grape, okay? My easiest one is the Moscato d'Asti, grape from region. So speaking of those DOCs, DOCGs, so there's hierarchy on wine labels. And I'm going to point this out. Let's see. No, not there. We'll get when we get to the labels. So this is our pyramid, and the bottom of the pyramid. And when I say the bottom of the pyramid, I don't necessarily mean that they're not wonderfully high quality wines, but the IGT, the Indicación Geográfica Típica wines, those wines have looser rules than the DOCs or the DOCGs. So in other words, you can put the name of the variety on the label, or you can make up a name. You can have higher yields, maybe even slightly lower alcohol. You can have looser winemaking productions. But as we go up the pyramid from the bottom to the top, then we go to DOC, Denominación de Origen Controlada, and this is starting to get into much more regulations. They're regulating the type of grape you can put in the bottle, so we don't put the name of the grape on the bottle, because if you're drinking Chianti DOCG, they know it's Sangiovese because the DOC and DOCG laws say it has to be, in that case, Sangiovese. So the grape is controlled, what the alcohol content can be or must be, minimums, production methods, farming methods even, and aging requirements. And then we had that for a while, the DOC, and that was great. It had great regulations. But then the Italian governing body of wine said, wait, we want something even more elevated. We want to elevate this concept. So they added a G, which is the garantita. So it's Denominación de Controlada y Garantita. And now it sounds like they're guaranteeing that this wine is going to be fabulous. It does guarantee that it's going to be even stricter rules than the DOC, made under probably smaller production and lower yields, longer aging, all of that. It doesn't guarantee in the sense that if you don't like your wine, you're not going to take it back to the DOCG governing body and say, hey, I'd like my money back. But what they're saying is that these methods really guarantee that you're going to get a wine that is typical and that is at that highest level for this region. So that's what the guarantee means. There's no return policy on it. So just before we get into talking a little bit more about white wine, I have a little pop quiz. You can just, Christian, how would you like them to answer a pop quiz?
Oh, they can put their answer in the comment section.
Okay, perfect. So here we go. So how much of Italy's wine production is white? Just take a guess. Is it 13%, 31%, 57%, or 64%? How much of Italy's wine production do you think is white? Give you a couple seconds here. I know there's a little bit of a delay on the chat box. So let's see. What do we think? Just take a guess. So we have Steve at 31%, Luis at 57%, Dina 31. 31 seems to be the going rate right now. Yep, lots of 31s. Okay. Well, I've got a big reveal for you guys here. It's actually 57%. And, when I think of Italian wines, my mind goes to Chianti, or to Barolo, or to any of the other great reds of Italy. But we forget how much Pinot Grigio and Glera is the grape of Prosecco. We forget how many of those grapes are being grown in Italy. And it really makes up for the impression of all the red wine. But there's a lot of Pinot Grigio coming out of Italy, which skews it up over 50%. So here's a chart. This is, if you look at the bottom, this is showing us here, these are the major growing regions, and the yellow bar at the top is what is the percentage of white wine, and the red is at the bottom. So you see here in the Veneto, which is where we're going to visit first, you see that it's obviously very highly dominated by white wine, and that is in particular Pinot Grigio and the Glera grape for Prosecco. This is also where Soave is. It's also where red grapes like Valpolicella, well, that's not a grape, but a style of wine, a red wine like Valpolicella, Amarone, those are coming from that region too. Then you get down here to Puglia, and you've got about a 50-50 split. And then it and maybe Emilia Romano, and then it really starts to taper off. And in many of these other regions, you're predominantly red. But look at the Friuli region, which we're going to visit first. You can see it's inside the Veneto. So you can see that it is very dominated by white wine grapes as well. So we're heading to the Veneto, and we're going to talk about two wines. The Veneto is divided up into three basic regions: Trentino, Alto Adige, the Friuli Venezia, and then the Della Venezia. And we're going to talk about those in short order. So you can see here in this chart with the three sort of top pieces of Italy, the hat, the top, the thigh, if you will, or the hip. You can see here that the Della Venezia covers both the Veneto and the Friuli region. And then the Alto Adige is in that northern area. So if you look at this for just a second, then I'm going to back it up and show you again. So this was the Alto Adige, this is Friuli, and then this makes up the Della Venezia. So you can, in Italy, just like we have here in the US, you can have regions inside of regions, just like we have Oakville sitting inside of Napa Valley. Okay, now in the Della Venezia, the Collio region is of particular interest, really considered one of the highest qualities. And in the Trentino Alto Adige, it is that Alto Adige DOC that's really considered one of the highest quality producing regions. So here's our Pinot Grigio. And I'm wondering if a few of you on the other end of this line are a little surprised by the color of these grapes. Pinot Grigio, the name literally means a little gray one. So you can see, you think of Pinot Noir as a little brown one. That's little blackberry. So you have Noir meaning black. Well, Grigio means gray. And so you see that these grapes are ever so slightly pink, ever so slightly gray. And so we don't do skin contact with this wine. So the insides are clear. So we still get a clear white wine, but they are just ever so slightly pink. Pinot Grigio is the highest volume white wine in Italy, and it requires that cool, moderate climate. And getting back to our map, so you're up here in the Veneto and the Friuli, and you're right up here against the Alps, and you've got all this, you're north. It's much cooler climate surrounded by mountains, which gives it altitude, which gives it, that cooler climate, snow melts, all of that stuff. So Pinot Grigio is known for high yields. Great, because we can make a lot of it. We can make a lot of high quality Pinot Grigio. It is an early harvester, which is good also because you are in a cooler climate. So you want to get your harvest in somewhat early. Generally, when you think of Pinot Grigio, you think of a crisp, white, refreshing, highly acidic wine. And so we usually ferment in stainless steel that at lower temperatures. That helps retain that vibrancy and that zestiness, that sort of just that vibrant personality. And we generally do not put Pinot Grigio in oak. There's nothing in oak that really gives it much benefit. There's, I'm sure, a few higher end examples, but it's a wine really meant to be lively and fresh. Because of that liveliness, it's best to be consumed young. And because of the high acidity, it's great when it has a nice little chill on it. And so important regions for Pinot Grigio are going to be the Della Venezia, which is that big, sort of broad area that covers the Veneto and Friuli, and then the Friuli Venezia Giulia itself. And then, of course, we talked about that Trentino Altige area too. So this gives you a really beautiful landscape picture of the Friuli Venezia Giulia, and it's 77% white wine, one of the highest percentages of white wine in any Italian region. Main grape is Pinot Grigio. We also do grow the Glera grape for Prosecco up in this general area as well. There are 4 DOCG regions, which means there are 4 regions that follow that highly regulated protocol. And then under that, there's 12 DOCs that loosen the rules just ever so slightly. And if the wine just says that it's from the Veneto, it's going to be in that IGT category with fewer regulations. So today we are drinking the Santa Cristina. I can't see myself, so I don't know what I'm looking at, but we're drinking the Santa Cristina Pinot Grigio. I have a bottle here to show you. So I will show you that right here. Hopefully you're able to see that. And anyway, this is from the Della Venezia. As we mentioned, that is a DOC, but it's only really recently a DOC. It used to be, honestly, it used to just be an IGT, that Indicazione Geographica Typica. This is fermented and aged in stainless steel under cool temperatures. And when I say aged, I don't mean aged like you would think of a wine being laid down for several, maybe months or even years. Aged maybe for a couple months just to get a settle on it under cool circumstances, usually in stainless steel. So you can see from this wine, I'm looking at it over my white little notepad here, and it's, just that pale lemon color. Let's not overcomplicate Pinot Grigio. It's, medium everything, sort of medium intense. I'm getting tree fruit from this wine, a lot of apple and pear. And of course, that hallmark of a good high acid white wine, that little bit of lemon zest in the wine, that lemon, or bright lemon aroma. And then we'll taste the wine. And pretty much just as expected, the wine is dry, light-bodied, very much mouth-watering. My mouth is watering even as I'm talking. Lowish alcohol, about 12%. That's pretty low. And again, those hallmark flavors of Pinot Grigio, the apple, pear, and lemon, and that little bit of minerality, if you will, that wet pebble or wet stone, kind of crushed gravel, little note in the end. We can argue where that comes from. Some people say it's the chalky soils of the Veneto. Other people say that's impossible, but it's there nonetheless, regardless of where we got it from. So you definitely would notice it. Okay. And now we're going to stay in the Veneto, but we're going to go to a DOC/DOCG region called Soave. And you can see here in my chart, it's in this area called 13, 14, 16. It's in this general area here, sort of at the lower left-hand corner of the Veneto. And the reason why it's a DOC/DOCG is you have both, just like we do with Pinot Grigio with the Veneto as well. So you have the looser regulations and then the tighter regulations. So love this picture. I got this off of the trade website for Soave, and it's pronounced Soave. Okay, Soave, and it's a very historic region. Lots of volcanic soils. It's been around forever. Mild climate, which are perfect conditions for growing grapes. You can see all these beautiful vineyards. It's the first Italian wine that was recognized as a prestigious fine white wine in 1931. It received its DOC status in 1968, and it's about 3% of Italy's DOC and DOCG vineyards, so not a lot, as you can see. The Soave, there's three levels, if you will. There's Soave DOC and Soave Superiore, and then there's the Recioto. And there's also one that's not on this list that we call Classico, Soave Classico, and that is coming from the historic center of Soave. And Soave, the region of Soave, is a globally important agricultural heritage site, as you can see from the sticker here on the side. It's recognized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And their role really is to safeguard social, cultural, economic, and environmental goods and services. So, you know, this is very eco-friendly, very pro-employee, just all of the things that we think of here when we say sustainable. This falls under a lot of those guidelines. So here we have the Soave grape. This is a very ripe bunch of Soave grapes. You can see they're almost a little pink. They're really more golden because they're so nice and ripe. The rules for Soave is that the wine to be called Soave DOC or DOCG must be 70% minimum of the Garganega grape. Most often you'll find it to be 100%. The remaining 30% for the DOC can be Trebbiano de Soave and Chardonnay, but for the DOCG, the blender can only be Trebbiano de Soave. Garganega is pronounced Garganega, just like it's spelled. It's one of Italy's oldest varietals. Most often it's delicate floral aromas, apricot flavors, a lot of stone fruit, sweet ripe apple, and really ripe citrus. And the hallmark of Soave is this sort of slightly bitter almond finish. And the character, of course, as in most wines, can change by the soil type and by winemaking. So, and here we're going to have the Alpha Zeta Soave DOC. So I will show you the label for this wine as well. Soave, actually, it's where you can sort of see it right there on the chart. But anyway, so this is a DOC. It's a brand that was developed by Master of Wine David Gleaver in 1999. It is sustainably farmed, cool fermentation. You'll find most of these crisp acidic white wines that we're going to talk about today are generally stainless steel fermented. So you can see by the color, it's got that nice pale lemon color. The aromas are of medium intensity. You get lots of lemon and really ripe, almost red. I mean, to me, it's red apple, not so much green apple. It has that sort of complexity of a red apple. The wine is definitely dry, medium body. There's a little bit of weight to this wine. Super juicy, mouth-watering acidity. And there's that low alcohol again today. And, you know, it's funny, in the summertime, you know, as we're starting to open things up a little bit, we're doing a little backyard social distancing with our friends. And everyone's been sort of saying, yeah, they've been locked in the house and everybody's drinking all their wine. They're drinking their whole wine cellar. And so we're all kind of on this little commitment to dial down the alcohol. And so there is a trend across the US for people looking for those lower alcohol wines. And you see a few of them advertised as sort of dry farmed or whatever. But really, all you have to do is look to some European wines to find wines that are not necessarily high alcohol. If you drink a Sauvignon Blanc here in Napa, you could be looking at 14%. And boy, does that make a difference. So these Italian wines are super lovely for, you know, looking for that lower alcohol. And they're even nice with a little spritz of LaCroix grapefruit in them. Give my trade secrets away. Anyway, but you do notice that little note of sort of almond peel, almond skin a little bit in the back. You know, I think I recommend if you had Soave when you were, you know, 10 or 15, even 20 years ago, that was my first real wine, by the way, it was Soave. And it was probably made by Bola back then. I really encourage you to try some of the newer ones that are on the market. Look for, if you can look for that term superiore or class code, that's even better. But really, I think you'll be surprised to find that Suave is a little more modernized than it was. So I'd give it a try. Okay, Christian, any questions as we've gotten through our first two wines?
Yeah, absolutely. The two vintages. What was the vintage of the first wine, and then the second wine as well?
2017 for the Pinot Grigio and 18 for the Suave.
Excellent.
I should have put that on the screen. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else?
That was it.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Okay. So now we're going to go down here to the Marche, and this is right on the Adriatic Sea down here, just to the east of Umbria, a little bit south, east and south of Tuscany, and north of the Abruzza area. And so you can see here, this little purple splotch right here is this little area called Dehesse. That's where we're going to be going for this wine. So before we get there, let's do a little recap of a little knowledge check. So which of these wines are have stricter production regulations? Sorry, IGT, DOCG, or DOC? Which has more regulations? Tighter rules. What do you think?
Go ahead and throw your answers in the comment section.
Yes, please. Thank you, Christian. So they're coming in, DOCG. I mean, I must have said it 10 times, but but I like to just sort of get you thinking a little bit. Okay, so, yep. I think Tara Kelly I've seen in these seminars before, so DOC. Okay, so everybody's a genius today. Yes, I said it enough times. Everybody's got that right. It is the DOCG. And that's because that G stands for garantita, meaning it's guaranteed to have the strictest regulations. And it is the DOCG. Okay, so now we're going to Verdicchio dei Castelli Dehesse DOCG. That's a mouthful, right? The best way I always say to remember this wine, and if you're studying WSET, I tell this to my students because it's a great little trick to remember it. I think of Verdicchio, I think of Radicchio, because this wine typically has a little bitterness to it, like Radicchio lettuce would. So anyway, so this is high, it's up in the hills of the Marche, in the center of Italy, but really closer to that Adriatic Sea on the east coast. It is a hilly area that surrounds this town that you see here on the bottom called Hesse. And that's why the De Hesse means it's from Hesse. Lots of mineral soils, very temperate climate because it is close to the Adriatic Sea. Large bodies of water moderate a climate, so you don't get big temperature swings. The key grape variety is Verdicchio, and 95% of all of the Verdicchio grown in Italy is grown in this Marche region. The production rules is that if you call it this Verdicchio de Castelli Dehesse DOCG, you have to have 85% Verdicchio, a minimum of 12.5% ABV. That's that low ABV again. And this does get 18 months of aging, including 6 months in the bottle. So that's a minimum. So this wine does see some oak, but when you taste this wine, in fact, we'll taste it in just a second. Let's taste it now because I want to really talk a little bit about that oak influence. So this is what the label looks like. I think you can hopefully see that. Okay, and the oak aging is not a bunch of new French oak. It's not heavy-handed. It's not going to run you over like vanilla ice cream. It's very subtle. So the colors are beautiful. This wine even has just a titch of spritz to it. Now, when you go from the Pinot Grigio and the Suave into this wine, you notice right away the richness, the little bit of texture on the palate. It's still very crisp, very refreshing. Not a lot of what I would call vanillin character, maybe just a tiny hint of it. You're not really getting a lot of oak character, but what you do get is concentration of flavors from using oak barrels that will allow evaporation and concentration to happen. So Verdicchio is pronounced Verdicchio, and Castella de Hesse dates back to the 14th century. This is really an ancient grape, means the little green one, and it's, as I mentioned, mostly found in the Marche. I'm sorry, that needs an E. Characteristics, it's a mid to late ripener, so you, more so than the early ripeners up in the Veneto, you will get more ripening, which gives the wine more body and richness. It is high acidity and citrusy, and this also has a little bit of that almond note running through it. Easy drinking, can range from easy drinking to complex wines. This one that I'm drinking today is kind of somewhere in between there. Italy never has one name for a grape. In fact, if a Sangiovese grape has over 200 names. And in this case, Verdicchio is also known as Trebbiano di Soave, Trebbiano Lugana, Trebbiano Valtanasi, and Marcignano Trebbiano. That's my best Italian. Sorry, Dad. Okay, so this is the 2018, and this Hacienda Santa Barbara is an old monastery not too far from the Adriatic Sea, and the grapes are grown on the outer limits of the village of Hesse that I showed you the picture of earlier. Fermented in stainless steel at cool temperatures, aged in stainless for 3 months. And then, I did look up the tasting notes. It doesn't really talk about that extra aging, but it would have to be by requirement. Lemon color, medium intense, that crisp apple, Meyer lemon, that juicy acidity, somewhat lower alcohol here. We're kind of creeping into the 13%, but very clean flavors, very refreshing, as like I say, most Italian white wines are. And then last but not least, we're heading to my favorite white wine up here in the Piedmont region. We're going up to Gavi. So the Piedmont region is, we showed you here, it's right up there. And then Gavi is down in the sort of southern area here, number 2, if you will, okay? And this is all of Gavi is a DOCG, so you can expect very high regulations. Beautiful sunny vineyard there, getting close to sunset. And it's just pronounced Gavi, historical region dating back to 972, the year 972. We talked about Piedmont, cold winds, hot summers, lots of breezes, very windy in this area. And it is, Gavi is considered the white counterpart to Barolo. So, if you're ever looking to do a themed meal, or like here at our house, we always like to start off with something white and refreshing, and then get into the bigger reds. It is a great accompaniment to Barolo, and kind of it's grown right next door, and it gives you something to talk about. So the DOCG was established in 1998 for Gavi. That's not really that long ago. And again, they're going to control the planting densities and the yields and the winemaking and all of that. The grapes here must be 100% Cortese. So we call the wine Gavi, but we're not calling out the grape on the label. It's going to be 100% Cortese. And this region is known for limestone soils, clay, marl. I always get a lot of minerality out of this wine, whether it's the soil or not, we'll see. And the only wine that's produced in the Gavi DOCG is called Gavi di Gavi. It's also known as Cortese di Gavi, which would be the grape plus the name, but it's traditional to call it Gavi di Gavi because it is a one-man show. It is all Cortese. So here's a nice picture of the Cortese grape, and it dates back to the 1600s. It's a very vigorous grape, lots of overgrowth. They have to really help control yields. It needs warmth to ripen. Typical styles are bone dry with bracing acidity. That's why I like this wine so much. I love acid. Lemon and lime flavors, apples, peaches, white flowers, herbal. And again, that sort of chronic theme we have, or consistent theme we have in Italy, with that little note of almond. And these wines can be quite age-worthy because of their high acidity. So this one is Enrico Serafina, Grifo del Quattro, Gavi de Gavi. And so this refers to, the name refers to an antique coin that was used by the Genovese lords and vineyard owners that were near from Genoa, which is near Gavi. This is all sustainably farmed, and it's stainless steel fermented, no malolactic fermentation, and no lees stirring. And those are two winemaking processes that tend to make a wine richer. The malolactic fermentation will give a wine maybe even a buttery note, so and some richness. And then, of course, lees contact adds a rich texture. In this wine, we want none of that. We really want to preserve that forward vibrancy of the wine. So let me show you the label. I love this label, even it's so pretty. Classic Gavi de Gavi label. So when you see Gavi de Gavi, you can think of it as the Cortese grape. And if it says Cortese de Gavi, it's the same thing. So this wine has just a little bit of frizzante. This is, what year did I put the vintage on here? I almost said this was from, let's see, where is it at here? 2018. But it has 1879 when the winery was founded on the label, and I almost used that as the vintage. So 2018, a little bit of that bright frizzante to me shows just freshness. Beautiful lemon, really beautiful lemon nose. Wow. That is like grown-up lemonade. I love it. It's so refreshing, bone dry. If you're looking for that summer refresher, this wine would be a good one for you. Okay. Any questions, Christian? This was our last wine, and then I've got a little wrap up.
Yeah, so we had a question about the previous bottle, the Verdicchio that you tasted. If you could let us know the producer and the vintage of that one real quick.
It's imported by Kermit Lynch. Let me back this up here. Hacienda Santa Barbara. That's the name of the producer, imported by Kermit Lynch. And what was the other part of the question?
Oh, I think you have it up there, 2018. So great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, do you know if it was aged in stainless steel or oak?
It was fermented in stainless. It says it's aged in stainless, but the rules for Verdicchio are minimum aging. Doesn't say barrel, so I don't know. I'll be honest. I think that other slide was incorrect. I think that might have been picking up a red wine. I had it. Where did I have it? Here, the minimum 18 months aging. That can't possibly be correct for this wine. I don't believe this wine was aged anywhere for 18 months. So, but the tasting notes say that the wine was aged in stainless.
Great. Okay.
Okay. I think somebody wanted to know the difference between aging in stainless and in the bottle.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So sorry, I've got my little Facebook on. I just happened to catch it. The difference is going to be a stainless steel tank is what we call inert, meaning no air gets in, no air gets out, nothing gets in, nothing gets out. So the wine is aged really without oxygen contact, and also without any kind of evaporation or concentration. Where when you're aging in, say, a neutral barrel or any barrel, the barrel breathes a little bit, so you're going to get a minor amount of oxygen exchange that can round the wine out a little bit. And you're also going to get concentration because the water will evaporate. That concentrates the flavors in the barrel. So for vibrant, refreshing wine, stainless steel is usually, or cement is usually the way to go, because you can control the temperature. You can dial down the fermentation temperature, which slows down fermentation and creates a crisper, more refreshing wine. If you want to ferment at warmer temperatures, you can always dial that up. But when you're fermenting in oak, you have no control over the temperature, and fermentation creates heat. So you get a warmer fermentation. It tends to make the wine maybe more complex. But if you're looking for a vibrant wine, it's going to take away from that. So a rich, buttery Chardonnay may be fermented in a barrel because we're not trying to control the temperature, but a light, delicate, white, vibrant white wine like the ones we're drinking here today are much better off in stainless steel.
Great.
And yes, I am saying that this wine was not aged in oak, and that I think my other slide had incorrect information on it.
Great.
Just to clarify for Tara.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we were here, and there are a few other wines of note that I just wanted to, we think of Italy, we tend to think very narrowly, but there's also, a few others that are notable would be Orvieto, and that's a medium-bodied wine from the Gracetto grape. It is also a DOC or DOCG in that Umbria region. You see this theme, this dry, crisp apple, pleasant, slightly bitter finish. That's pretty common in Italy. One of my favorite wines is Vernaccia di San Gimignano. That's in the Tuscan region. Tends to be dry, crisp, high acid. I know it's a little repetitive, although they do sometimes oak age this wine. It's not common. Also Trebbiano, we talked about a couple of different types of Trebbiano is really a group of grapes. It's not just one grape. It's also can be called Uni Blanc. And you saw a list of different Trebbianos when we were talking about Verdicchio earlier. Trebbiano is a very reliable blender and also a reliable source for volume production. It's great for quaffing wine, I guess you could say. And then Fiano is made in the southern region, and that is going to be a very high quality wine, also dry, high acid, but because you're going further south, you're getting warmer. Southern Italy is a warmer region. You're going to start to see those tropical flavors and those peachy flavors of stone fruit, melon, and mango. And this wine is much fuller on the palate than anything we've tried today, or really any of the other wines we've mentioned today, because they do some lees stirring, which is adding that dead yeast cell, stirring that back into the wine, eventually getting rid of it, but it leaves behind a richness. So, Christian, if there's no other questions, I want to wrap it up with our wine course.
Okay, take it away, Karen.
Okie dokie. So here at Napa Valley Wine Academy, we have a fantastic program called Discovering Italian Wines. If you love it, everything Italy, this is a great course. It's a complete online course about the wines of Italy, the most important country really for imports to the U.S. We import more Italian wine than anything else. It's designed if you're just a curious enthusiast or if you're an industry pro, if you're selling Italian wine or serving Italian wine professionally, it's a great program. 12 months access is included in the course, and you do it all online from start to finish. Got that right, Christian?
You sure did. Yeah, absolutely great. So let's bring us back, both back on screen. You're a little low in the screen, so if you could tilt
sorry.
There you go.
I can't see myself, so I have no idea where I'm at.
So there was just another question. Tara wondered about the Arnese grape, from the Piemonte, and asked about how the wine is from the Arnese grape, and it's lovely, refreshing wine as well. So highly recommend you try it. Not as common here in the U.S. To find. So when you come across a bottle, definitely pick that up.
And they do make quite a bit of it in Italy. You just don't see it it wouldn't be something we would know a lot about here, that we wouldn't necessarily see a lot here. So
yeah, correct. There's so many great white wines from Italy, right? Sauvignon Blanc from Alto Adige as well, Trentino region, and then of course the sparkling wines of Italy are phenomenal beyond Prosecco, Franciacorta, and Trenta Doc as well. So much to discover about Italy. Hopefully Karen has helped just whet your appetite in this region. We really appreciate you joining us today, Karen, and everyone out there on Facebook. So hopefully you can join us again on Monday for our Monday trivia game. Another exciting instance of trivia. Wednesdays are obviously study hall days where we give you a little bit of instruction via Facebook, and then Saturdays we have special guests for you here on our Facebook page. Thanks again for joining us. Stay safe, drink well, and be kind. See everyone soon. Thanks,
Bye,
Karen.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks.